Let me extend a pleasant and a good Friday morning to you members of the media and welcome you to the headquarters of the Ortiz Workers Trade Union this morning, where we will be unveiling our plans for Labor Day 2020. But first, let me just address back a bit and state some of the reasons why we found it absolutely necessary to have a recognition, commemoration, and in some instances celebration of this important day that we call Labor Day. Labor Day for us is not a day to go on the beach, a day to bake cake or to do some socializing elsewhere, or to even go in the garden. As important as those activities are, they are important. But for us in the trade union movement, in particular, the joint trade union movement, Labor Day is both a solemn and a significant day in the calendar of the history of the trade union movement, the modern trade union movement of Trinidad and Tobago. And therefore, all of the achievements that the country would have gained, all of the economic advancements, all of those progressive laws, health and safety legislation, industrial relations, workers' protection through the mechanism of the courts, the issue of the first ever collective agreement back in '46, cost of living allowance and so on, all of those things which we unfortunately sometimes take for granted, it came as a result of the struggles and as a result of the birth and the development of the modern trade union movement in Trinidad and Tobago, which started really in earnest in 1937. That's the mark in the sun, 1937, and which was identified and continue to be identified with the strikes and insurrection and the riots and so on. And of course, the issue and the event with Charlie King on that particular fateful day, June 19th. So when we hear June 19th, for us it carries a deep and wide and sweeping significance, which has to do with not just people marching in the streets, but which has to do with the development of Trinidad and Tobago. In other words, without the events prior to and on June 19th and the subsequent events that flowed from June 19th in 1937, Trinidad and Tobago would not have been what it is today. The achievements gained over those years would not have been gained were it not for the modern trade union movement in Trinidad and Tobago. So to those men and women past, immediate past, and past back from 37 coming forward, and of course present, those men and women of the trade union movement who gave their all, sacrificed their everything to ensure that workers and the people of this country enjoy a better life, that is founded and built on the cornerstone, the foundation that is June 19th, Labor Day, Trinidad and Tobago. Very, very significant. And it is the hallmark, the significant date on the calendar of the trade union movement, indeed for the joint trade union movement. And that is why, in spite of what would have occurred from December to now, and more particularly from March to present in Trinidad and Tobago with respect to the attempt by our country to flatten the curve or to defend or to ensure that we are protected from the ravages of COVID-19 in this pandemic situation, in spite of all of those things, we believe that it is critical, it is important that we ensure that in this year in particular, we make sure that we register a recognition, celebration, and of our achievements of this significant day. And this morning we want to unveil our plans for this year's Labor Day, that we will be doing it a bit different, but that we will be doing it anyway. And so I want to announce, for the benefit of clarity and for avoidance of doubt or confusion, that every single event or every thing that we do on that day will be in conformity to the strict observance of the Ministry of Health direction and of course the police who are there to enforce those directions. In other words, we will be observing all of the COVID-19 protocol, ensuring that ours is an event that will be strict adherence to and not contribute to any type of unraveling of those procedures and protocols and so on. And so I thought it necessary to say that, so that we will be abundantly clear. The Joint Trade Union Movement will be observing, in spite of what we do on Labor Day, we will be observing all of the protocols with respect to COVID-19, every single one of them. And therefore, with us here this morning to make this announcement, comrades from the following unions that I would now call, found it important enough to leave whatever else they were doing and to make themselves present for this particular press conference this morning, where we unveil the plans. Now, the Joint Trade Union Movement comprised of some 17 trade unions, major trade unions in Trinidad and Tobago. But with us here this morning in this press conference, of course, it's the BEGU, Banking, Insurance and General Workers Union, Amalgamated Workers Union, All Trinidad, represented by its President General, Postal Workers, represented by its Secretary General, Communication Workers, represented by its Secretary General, Tutor, represented by its President, TTR and A, represented by its President, and of course the Alphys Workers Trade Union, represented by its President General, myself. So I want to start by saying that the Joint Trade Union Movement on May Day this year, and again a couple of days ago in a press conference where we had to deal with the undermining of the court, the industrial court, by not resourcing properly the court, we would have made a critical statement that we want all workers to pay close attention to. We want everybody to pay attention to, which is that all workers are essential and to treat all workers essentially. That is the theme under which we are going to recognize this year 2020 Labor Day. All workers are essential. Treat all workers essentially. And so we would have, after our deliberations and discussions and agreement to approach Labor Day in a particular way this year, we would have approached the Commissioner of Police to ensure that we are on one page with respect to these activities. There was a letter of requesting a meeting with the Commissioner of Police, dated May 28th, and there was a subsequent meeting with the Commissioner on June 3rd, where all of what we are going to announce here this morning was explained and clarified, and a way forward was found and agreed upon. And therefore we sought and obtained agreement with the Commissioner of Police to stage this event. That's the next point I want to make. The Joint Trade Union Movement would have sought discussions, which discussions led to an agreement with the Commissioner of Police supporting this particular event on June 19th, come Labor Day this year, 2020. And so we would be starting this recognition process by a motorcade tomorrow morning. That motorcade tomorrow morning, Saturday, June 13th, that's tomorrow Saturday, would start at the Rienzi complex and end at Charlie King Junction in Faizabad. And it would proceed along the Southern Main Road, straight on to the Marbella roundabout, and then onto the South Trunk Road, and then turn onto Oropuch Junction, and then on to Faizabad Junction. That's a motorcade of the trade union leadership. And that motorcade would start at 9 a.m. at Rienzi Complex, where we will address the media, and then we will proceed along the route described. In that motorcade, because we wanted to be controlled, and because we would have sought permission, and we are operating under the strict guidance of the police, all trade unions will be entitled to a maximum of 5 vehicles. So it will be a total of 75 vehicles in that motorcade. But of course, those vehicles will be bearing the flags and so on, and the identification of the various unions as we proceed along the route that I have described. And so, when we arrive at Charlie King Junction, there will be no rally, no assembly, no speeches, no gathering. We will automatically disperse, having achieved our purpose tomorrow morning. So again, motorcade tomorrow morning starting at 9 a.m. at the Rienzi complex in Couva, and we proceed along the Southern Main Road onto the Marbella roundabout, onto the South Trunk Road, and then we turn off at Oropuch Junction and proceed until we arrive at Charlie King Junction, where the motorcade will automatically come to an end. And that's tomorrow. The OWTU, like we do every year, recognizing that we ought to give thanks to our ancestors and of course, first of all, to the Almighty God, who has kept us and blessed us throughout all of our struggles, recognizing that this thanks must also be accompanied with a give back. We will host our annual Thanksgiving ceremony at the Faizabad Hall of the OWTU on Sunday morning, 9 o'clock. Of course, again, limited personnel, no more than 5, social distancing, observing all of the protocols, but of course, giving thanks and praises to Almighty God for sparing us and for guaranteeing us victory going forward. And we will be distributing some hampers to children in the community who otherwise would have attended that Thanksgiving, but because of this situation, this COVID-19 situation, they will not, and I say not in capital, because the media sometimes purposely get it wrong. Not you, but your scribes, those house Negroes, those editors who genuflect to the beat of the drum of their colonial masters, modern colonial masters. So we will not be gathering children at the hall, but we will be distributing hampers to those children who throughout the years would have attended that Thanksgiving. It's all about teaching the children to pray and to give thanks and so on. And even in a situation like this, showing them the example of not omitting such an important event. So that is going to take place, and of course the leadership is also invited to tune into that. That is going to take place on Sunday morning, this Sunday. All of the prior activities that we would have had, really the cycling, Renzi, cycling classics and so on, the Butler Renzi, the marathon, and all of those other things will be set aside this year. But on Labor Day itself this year, here's what is going to occur. The Joint Trade Union movement, its leadership, we have decided that we are going to have a symbolic recognition by a symbolic march. That is to say that 2 persons from each union will be represented in that march, from Avoca Junction to Charlie King Junction on June 19th, starting at 9:30 a.m. So it is going to go like this. We are going to have our normal wreath laying ceremony on Friday, June 19th at 8:30 a.m. The leaders in groups of 5 will go and pay homage and respect to the martyrs and at the tombstone of Tuba Uriah Buzz Butler at the Faizabad Cemetery. So we will have that wreath laying ceremony where the leaders will be performing those activities by laying the wreath and making the short statements and so on. Of course, in groups of 5. I cannot overemphasize this point so that we will not get derailed, or an attempt would not be made on us to be derailed by our detractors. But they will still do that. But we are clear. In groups of 5, observing the COVID-19 and the Ministry of Health protocol, we will conduct our very important and significant wreath laying ceremony at the tombstone of Tuba Uriah Buzz Butler at the Faizabad Cemetery from 8:30 a.m. Then we go to the headstone of Lubra Charles and also perform a wreath laying ceremony and activity there before proceeding to Avoca Junction. Now, Lubra Charles, why Lubra Charles? Lubra Charles was shot and killed on June 19th, 1937 because he was mistaken for Tuba Uriah Buzz Butler. He was a Uriah Buzz Butler look-alike. And so he was shot and killed on that very spot. And so every year we observe the significance of his contribution, his sacrifice, in sacrificing his life, and of course on the very spot where he was shot and killed by state police. Yeah? It's important to know that, by state police acting on behalf of the multinationals and the employers. So after that, we will then proceed to Avoca Junction, where we will gather, and it would not incur any amount of time this year because it will only involve the leaders of JTUM. And so this morning, I want to request, perhaps in the most unprecedented way ever, that our comrades who will have the anxiety, the willingness, the commitment to struggle, and who every year support us in their thousands, but because of the discussions and agreement that we had with the police, I want to announce that those comrades will not be with us or not joining us in the march. I want to request that those comrades stay away and observe all of the events which will be carried live on social media and mainstream media. And therefore, here's an opportunity for them this year to not come, but to observe the symbolic and historic march, where the leadership of JTUM, your trade union leaders, will be marching on your behalf. So, leaders from all of the trade unions mentioned here this morning, and all of the trade unions that form the joint trade union movement, and one person will be marching from Avocat Junction to Charlie King Junction. Of course, again, we will start off the morning with prayer and reverence and supplication and giving thanks and asking for God's protection for the day and going forward. And after that, after arriving at Charlie King Junction, we will be delivering, and I will be delivering on behalf of the joint trade union movement, our usual Labor Day speech and message. And of course, given what we just came through, given what we are involved in right now with our battle for the recognition and respect for workers' contribution, our battle against the state, the government, and even the opposition we see, and all of those forces who are stacked up against us, we are going to be doing a comprehensive assessment on the performance of government, opposition, business owners, employers, as we see it through the eyes of the joint trade union movement, in terms of the facts that we are going to be putting forward, and in terms of our own adverse experience and other experiences that we would have experienced over the last 5 years, 5, 6, 7 years, but in particular over the last 5 years. It cannot be, it will not be, it shall not be that we have a Labor Day just prior to a general election and the trade union movement, of which JTUM is a major part, remains silent and does not comment on the performance of those who were given the responsibility to lead us over the last 5 years. That will not happen. We will be commenting, and therefore we'll be commenting on both the performance of those who had that responsibility and those who would have done things to provoke us or to interfere with the benefits that we have. And I refer specifically to the UNC opposition in terms of a specific issue that we see they are leading the charge to take away or to have denied the Oilfields Workers Trade Union the benefit of putting back thousands and thousands of workers back to active employment by a mere farce or a fallacy or an empty promise of opening back Petrotrin. It cannot be. Labor Day will pass, and we did not go into that in a comprehensive way. But really, our focus has to be on the performance of those who were given the electoral mandate to govern us over the last 5 years. And let me just say that whether they vex, whoever vex, the sycophant, well, we do not have sycophants in Trinidad and Tobago again. We have chronicophants. They are chronic with that illness. And therefore, whether they vex or they please, they pull out their weave, they pull out their wig, whatever they say, we are not daunted by that, because we come bearing the facts. And what we say cannot be denied. And we invite anybody, of course, to challenge it. But I don't want to go down that road too much, because I might be tempted to begin to give away some of what we have to say on Labor Day. Very interesting, Labor Day, June 19, 2020. To say that it is unprecedented, what we are going to do, is an understatement, the biggest understatement perhaps of the decade or the century. Because for us to be in a situation to ask our supporters who are anxious to come out to stay away so that we will have conformity with the police's direction, that is a big one for us, but it is necessary. And therefore, we don't want to have this event be skewed or derailed, where our detractors will remove the focus from the message and point to some sort of incident or collision or confrontation with the police. The police will be there to protect and serve and to ensure law and order. We are about law and order. And therefore, we, out of an abundance of caution, we will not allow our detractors to have the benefit of saying that we caused some incident to a resurgence of COVID-19 by our gathering, our members and so on. And that is why I am appealing to our comrades. Let us not give them an opportunity to come at us, to come at those who represent your interests. Because make no mistake about it, absolutely no one in the country, government, opposition, and both of them will be coming to you for your votes and asking you, the workers, for their votes, to join them in their campaign. Just now, watch you and you will see. But none of them represent your interests as the trade union movement and your respective unions. Yeah? Nobody. Absolutely nobody. And therefore, true to form, on June 19th, we will be out there ensuring that we have a Labor Day that is different, but a Labor Day all the same that is very crucial for our modern existence and for our protection and for posterity and for going forward as we take the struggle that started long before June 19th, but that where the labor movement line in the sand was drawn on June 19th, 1937, as we take this movement into the future, forward ever and backward never. And thank you very much. Yeah? Right, so any